Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second Grand Prix out of Belgrade, Serbia. Today, we are going to be finishing the semi-final matchups between Giri Rapport and MVL Rapport, as well as Anish Giri and Giri Andreikin. And this video is called what it's called because, honestly, watching this semi-final was heartbreaking. There are 4 players, and whoever you support, there was heartbreak and sadness to be had all over the place. Although, obviously, whenever you have heartbreak in a competitive event, and you want to cry, the other side obviously feels a sense of euphoria and elation. So we are going to have a handful of games today. We are going to be starting with the matchup between Giri Rapport. Ricard is how you're supposed to say it in Hungarian, apparently. But I'll go back and forth. And MVL Rapport. Now, this game was nothing short of insane. Maxime lost the first game, so he has to win this game with white. He begins with e4, and Rapport, doesn't need to lose, so he plays e5. I mean, e4, e5 is what you play when you're playing black, and you won the first game of a knockout. Knight f3, knight c6, and Maxime goes for, what he goes for always. Bishop b5. He knows this better than anything else. Rapport plays a6. Okay, we have normal stuff. And already on move 4, we have a surprise. We have d6. d6 is what you play when you're going to play bishop d7. So, for example, white will castle. You'll play bishop d7. This is already very weird because normally this is like not something you commit very early. Normally what happens here is knight f6, castles, bishop e7, right? Like this is how you develop, or you play b5 in the style of Magnus, leaving the option open to play the Marshal. Well, here there's d6, bishop g4. So he doesn't even play bishop d7, and the whole point of playing like this is that you fianchetto. So for example, just so you understand, like g6, bishop g7 is what black goes for, trying to play like a king's Indian. Instead of that, Rapport pins the knight. So he is playing a very aggressive Ruy Lopez system. And this is the absolute point of it. When this bishop gets attacked, black's point is not that black is going to retreat the bishop to h5. This is not the point at all. The point is that black is going to play the move h5. This is truly incredible stuff. This is known as the fishing pole or the fish hook. The point is that anytime you have, and I'm actually going to make a separate video on this in the future, these kinds of ideas. The point is that anytime you have a castled king and a rook staring down the h-file, you can sack something on the g4 square and open up the h-pawn. And this is a winning position for black. The point is that the white knight has to move out of the way, and the queen will come in and bulldoze, and this is just game over. Now, obviously, that's not what happened. We're in the Grand Prix, for God's sake. This isn't Guess the Elo. But that is black's entire point. White's entire point, on the other hand, is what are you doing, you idiot? Like, I'm obviously not going to take. You're playing this game like an absolute buffoon. I'm going to play principled chess in the center of the board. If you take on d4, then I actually can take. You know what the point is? After this, I actually can move my knight back to h2. Why? What is the difference? My bishop can come to f4. Once my bishop guards my knight, you're never getting through. See, that's the difference. That is why you play d4, and simultaneously you threaten to just attack the middle, and you have a lot of threats. This position actually has been played before, but this is not something you play in a position where you have to not lose. Your goal, your objective, is to not lose the game. Rapport is a lunatic, but he obviously is playing this with good reason. His reasoning is the fact that he might catch MVL off guard and get good chances for himself. So b5 played by black here, the best move, kicks the bishop out, and black takes the pawn on d4. This is all theory. This is all theory. This has all been played before. And the point is that now I can take on g4. Because again, after this, white's bishop is open, so white can play the move knight g5. This position has been seen a few times. And here, grandmasters have also gobbled this bishop first, and then something like ab3, hg4. This has been played before, knight g5, queen d7. Namely in the game, Vugar Gashimov, may he rest in peace, tragically passed away from, I believe, a brain tumor before he was 30 years old. Very strong grandmaster from Azerbaijan. That's why we have the Gashimov Memorial Tournament. He once won a very nice game in this position by playing the novelty, a move that had never been played before, queen d3, against Alexander Grishuk 14 years ago. In a Grand Prix. Grishuk's been playing these Grand Prix for like a decade and a half. And actually, Gashimov said that after he played queen d3, he went to the bathroom and Grishuk thought for 1 hour and Gashimov fell asleep in the toilet for 10 minutes. I'm not joking. That's actually what he said about this game. So in this position, like I said, black can take on b3, but instead we have h takes g4, knight g5, and knight h6 defending the pawn on f7. Now, if we just very quickly look at the position, Rapport is down a piece. This absolute psychopath, who doesn't need to lose this game with black, is down a piece on move 10. He's just cleanly down a piece. However, position is anything but clear. White here has a lot of ways to play aggressively. The most aggressive way is f4. And then black can play like c6. I mean, it's incredibly complicated. I don't even want to get into all this. Point is that if you play f takes e5, this is actually very dangerous because your king is here. You know, the h file is open. You're going to get surrounded on two diagonals. MVL has a lot of options. He can play f4. He can play bishop e3. He can play c3. Bishop d5 is even a move. It's one of the most popular moves in the position. Point is that after this, you play c3. You kind of both chop down. But MVL thinks and plays g3. G3 is not the most popular move, but it's a move. It's definitely a move. And it kind of tries to freeze the king side. We have bishop e7 attacking the knight. We have f4 defending it. Obviously, Rapport can take en passant, but this just helps the knight get back. That's not really what he wants. So, queen d7, and MVL plays f5. Rapport plays c6. On a very high depth, Stockfish actually thinks that not only is black okay, black might be better here. Somehow, black, despite being a full piece down, unless white plays absolutely perfectly, is not doing that poorly. Why? Because there are two pawns to be had. So it's actually, it's not far away from being a good position for black. The other thing is, like, what do you do? Like, let's say you play the move c3, I take, and then I'm going to trap your knight. So because your knight ventured out there, it has no way home, which is why you need that pawn on g4. So MVL plays knight c3, queen d8 played, and MVL bulldozes on f7. We have takes, and he takes on g4. Okay, so officially material is equal, because MVL has to sack the knight and get the second pawn back. So both sides have 6 pawns, both sides have 3 minor pieces. Let the fun begin. Knight takes b3, a b3, bishop g5. Rapport is like, all right, that's it. I have a beautiful situation. I'm going to trade bishops. I'm going to trade queens. I am never going to lose this game. King g2, queen f6. That's it. I mean, he's done it. The absolute madman has navigated the complexity of the position very well. He's tamed MVL. Position looks good. MVL, though, however, gets a second wind here and begins the next stage of the game. And he says, I don't care that we have to trade queens. You can go ahead and trade queens with me. I still have enough material to beat you, and I don't need queens. I don't need bishops. I'll beat you in an endgame. 2 rooks and a knight, that's an endgame. That's where we are. So knight g5, knight goes back to f2, and Rapport just can't contain himself. He has to castle queenside. Now, castling queenside, shockingly, is not a good move at all. But why? I don't understand. I mean, if you play rook a1, I just play king b7. The king is... That's probably what Rapport was thinking. He was thinking, I'll castle long, I'll play d5, my knight is more active. Stockfish hates long castling. It thinks that black should keep the king in the middle of the board, and it actually thinks that Rapport should play on the queen side with a5, a4. Obviously, when you castle long, you're not going to play a5, a4. You no longer have a rook there, right? He's trying to play for d5. MVL strikes on the queen side with the move c4, king c7, and now plays rook h1. It's going to be a very interesting game. I mean, to the untrained eye, it looks like this should just very easily be a draw, because the only open files, the rooks stare at each other, and like hypothetically speaking, let's say, you know, king b6, rook takes, rook h1, king h1. I mean, white can lose this game, you know, because the king is going to enter. Right, the king's just going to enter, and one king is more active than the other. So in any endgame, you do have to always think about, like, what trades are good and what trades are not. White is probably okay with a trade of 1 rook, but not both, because black's king is ready to be super active. White needs some material on the board. Black takes on c4 and plays the move a5, looking to play rook b8. So it's going to be a dance of rooks. Rook a1. So MVL has both his rooks on his corners now. We have king b6 and rook d1, and MVL says, no more rook trades. I'm done. All right, no more rook trades. I offered enough. King is going to go to e3. I'm even okay surrendering this h-file to you because you can't really get anywhere with your rook. Well, Rapport is not convinced and decides to put both rooks on the h-file, completely committing to attacking this king. But folks, he's abandoning the post. The king is left over there with the pawns. I mean, you left the king out in the field with a tank that doesn't function, right? And you get some pistols here, but I mean, look at this. We got heavy artillery. So I don't know what the hell is going on. Rapport is playing this game like he has everything to lose as opposed to nothing to lose. Rook b3, king a6, rook a3. Who is stopping this? I mean, the king is about to be swarmed. Check, okay, and what did Rapport think he had here? I mean, he's just, look at this. Okay, but what are his threats? Okay, knight d2 check, fine, and we're gonna attack some stuff. But here, MVL finds a beautiful idea. c5 check. That is an amazing move. Now, it looks like it just gives away a pawn, but it splits these pawns forever, and it actually walls in the king. You see, the problem was if you just checked the king a million times, he would run in, and white would be in trouble. But by walling the king in, by making the black pawn capture, now we can bully the king some more. In this position, you can give this check. You can also try to box the king in, which is a move that's going to happen a little bit later. Rook a5, king b4. MVL chooses to repeat because, again, it's move 37. Remember that on the 40th move, they gain a little bit of extra time. King b6, and we have this, and he plays rook back to a3. Okay, it's the 41st move. The players get another set of minutes here, and white is winning. MVL is completely winning because, let's just face it, this king is much weaker than this one. But how does MVL actually get to the king? One idea is to play b3. Force the knight back, check on a5, king b5, and go to a7. You have to get enough distance here between the king and the pawn. The knight has to be under pressure. There actually is a winning idea here by white to just push. To just go for the g7 pawn and push these two pawns, and that's how you're going to win. That's one idea, but there's a lot of very complex variations. You can also try to play rook d7 right away. He decides to play rook a7, rook b8, and now b3, and go for it like this. Knight a5. Now, knight g4. So he's threatening to take, maybe get to this pawn. It's not so easy to figure out what to do with Rapport's king here, so he just takes the pawn on b3. Apparently, this is incorrect. Like, apparently, MVL had to not allow this. He had to not allow the pawn to get taken with the knight. It's very, very complex. You know, he chooses to go about it this way, to take g7 and take e5 and allow this pawn through. But this gives Rapport too much counterplay, right? Again, like if we go back to that variation I just showed, the difference here after b3 is the fact that you don't actually get to win that pawn. If knight a5, there is rook b6, king a3, and b4 discovered check. So you don't let black win the pawn with his knight. The way the game happens, he wins the pawn with his knight, and even though MVL gets two pawns, I have passers too. Now, white is still better. White is still playing this for a win. Rook g6, I think here, yeah, rook g6, c5, knight to c6 check, but now that's the problem. That's the problem. Rapport is just too active with his c-pawn. He rushes the pawn in. MVL's gonna have to sack this rook. He still has a bunch of passed pawns. But the knight is back. The knight is back, and if anyone's playing for a win now, it's actually the guy with the horse. Because e6, c3, e7, c2, f7, queen! Queen! But check. And that's just the end of the story. Too many checks on the board, and the players agree to a draw because it's just perpetual. I mean, white is a move away, but that's just not fast enough. Black is going to give a million checks here, and there's nothing that white can do. I think, like I said, in the critical moment, right around move 40 to 45, MVL had to find a slightly different plan of action here. Rather than rook a7 and allowing this pawn to be taken with the knight, he had to play something slightly different. Maybe here he had to play... Instead of b3, he had to go for this knight g4 and do this in a different fashion. But it was complicated. And tragically, despite having a winning position, MVL is knocked out. He's knocked out, and Richard Rapport is our first finalist in this Grand Prix. So he has now made it to a semifinal and a final. If he wins this, I mean, he is maybe a lock for the candidates. So put some respect on Rapport's name. The next matchup that I have for you is Anish Giri versus Giri Andreikin. They drew their first classical game. Their second one was not extremely exciting, I'm just gonna say. It was an interesting opening, but I mean, very strange. Like a queen's pawn, but a queenside fianchetto. This is already strange. Anish plays c5 in like queen's gambit style, going for this. We have, queen c5, e3, and a relatively normal looking position after 10 moves, where the pawns have been traded d for c. Black is going to move the queen somewhere, finish his development, and then, play will commence. Now, here, Andreikin does something hilarious. He's put his knight on d2. He moves it back to b1. His idea is probably to put it on c3 or maybe bishop a3, right? So now we have a trade of dark squared bishops. Now we have a trade of knights. Okay? Now, a little bit later, we get a trade of queens. The knight goes back to d2, And the knight now goes back to b1 and c3. So white is a little bit, a little bit more pleasant, perhaps positioned here. These pawns look very nice. They take up a lot of space. But the position is completely equal. It's completely equal because actually if white tries to expand anywhere, like let's say white plays the move b4, that's just a weakening for no reason. Like what is white's next move? Okay, knight b5. Oh, okay, we can even take on a7. Rook a8. Knight b5. Rook a2. I mean, you're just letting white get in. There's no point to do that. If you try to play a3 and, play knight b5 and then win the pawn back, I'm going to go here. You can't make any progress. It's like any progress you make with the white position, it weakens something else. So you can't do too much. White, tries to play a little bit more aggressively. Anish trades the b pawn. We have a 2-on-1 situation on the queen side, which could, result in a passed pawn somehow. But rook c5 and a5, and Anish just does a very nice job here. He breaks again with d5. A couple of moves ago, he played the important pawn break b5, and in the Maratshi bind, which is exactly this, if black can achieve these two breaks, black is doing very well. So this game doesn't get... Okay, I knocked over my trash can. Well, I mean, it's almost symbolic of this game. I'm just trying to throw this game into the garbage. The players repeat moves on move 32. So, 2 draws between these two, between Andreikin and Giri. Yesterday, they had a very exciting game, or 2 days ago, they had a very exciting game. Or was that yesterday? I don't remember. That was 2 days ago, because I'm recording this recap 1 day late in terms of summarizing the semifinal. So that first game was nuts. That means that these guys have to go to a rapid playoff, okay? They have to play rapid to decide who is going to be the finalist. Now, Andreikin begins with e4. He has white in the first game. And, I mean, lo and behold, I mean, my man is just going for a scholar's mate. Absolutely no respect for Anish Giri. And also, I should just say, his flag is Fide. I got some questions about this. I am not wiping his federation. That is a Fide decision. All Russian players currently have the Fide flag. That's just what they're represented as. Just kidding. He goes for bishop's opening. Now, the main line here is c6, d5. That's what, a player with bishop c4 wants black to play c6, d5. He does not really want black to do this. Because the point is that now this is a Vienna. Of course, you can play knight f3, and okay, but we have a Vienna. And bishop b4 is a very normal move here. This is... actually, one of the chapters of my e4 course. This is the Vienna system, and here knight e2, d5. And that's actually what we get, so it's kind of funny. We have this on the board. Now white will castle, and black can take on c3 or play bishop e6. Both of these moves are completely reasonable. He chooses to play bishop e6, and I believe theory here is to take on d5 and then to play the move f4, and that is exactly what Andreikin does. Giri plays f6. Now, I've actually never seen the move f6, but again, he's a high 2700 rated player, so he obviously has a little bit of preparation here. Black is just trying to kind of stabilize his position and not allow white to get any sort of advantage. Andreikin takes on e5. Black responds by taking with the knight. It's actually very funny. You would think that after playing f6, you take with the e-pawn. Sorry, you take with the f-pawn. But now you can't castle. There is absolutely no reason to allow yourself to get into this situation. Because now you're going to have to castle long. You're going to have to play queen d6 and long castle. If you don't, like if you just make a couple of stupid moves, then after knight g3, queen h5, you can resign. Because you just can't leave your king in the middle. It's kind of funny. f6 is completely intended to take with the knight. We have knight d5, queen d5, and now knight f4. Queen goes back to d7. At this point, I would like to see white expand with c3, d4. Look at that. He does exactly as I'm saying, but a very beautiful move, long castles. Look at that. I mean, this is actually a really nice way to get an advantage with white, c3, d4. And I mean that because this knight is in the middle of the board. This seems to be Anish's entire idea. For example, if knight g6 is played, you give a check. Nobody can conveniently stop this check. Because, oops, now the king can't castle in either direction. Congrats, that looks pretty terrible. Next I go here and I give you, I give you all sorts of problems with this move d5. So this is absolutely terrible. Yeah, I mean, this is rough, right? So long castles is an amazing move. If you take the knight, you always have to look for checks in chess. Bishop c5, now I have two queen and rook, and I'm gonna take, and I'm just completely winning. So very nice idea by Anish to escape white's incoming assault with this very nifty long castles. White now has to either cover the check or move the king. Black plays knight back to g6, and black is doing very well. Why? If knight takes, look at that. It's kind of like that fishing pole attack that we saw Rapport uncover, except he didn't sack a piece. So he just has a very nice position. Andreikin here plays knight e6 attacking the rook. Anish plays knight f8. Anish so far has been playing top stockfish moves, 18 moves in a row. I'm not kidding. Anish has been playing the top stockfish move the entire game. He has been playing it perfectly. Knight goes back to d4, and now knight g6, knight e6 obviously is a repetition of moves. So when this knight goes back to d4, black has to figure out what to do. Black can infiltrate with queen g4, followed by some sort of pawn assault. The knight can come back, rook can get involved. Black can also pin, right? So black's intention here could be to double and just really ruin this pawn structure, and also just maintain the pressure. Bishop c5 is a very interesting move. Bishop will go back, then black will start an attack. Black has a lot of interesting ideas. Even rook e4, for God's sake, is an interesting idea to then play bishop c5. Position is extremely uncomfortable for white. So Anish here, beautiful opening success, minus 1.5 position on move 18. Repeats moves. Repeats the moves. I mean, when I saw this, I wanted to scream. I mean, I wanted to cry. I wanted to throw things. I was like... Now, when I watch these games, a lot of you misconstrue, like when I analyze top-level games and I'm, critical, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying I would even be at this event, let alone be winning either position with either color. As a fan, I am disappointed. I was like, what? Anish just played a perfect game of chess. Literally, he got everything. He got some new idea that I'd never seen in my life, right? That doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's been played. I just haven't seen it. This beautiful long castles idea, and then he just repeats moves. I mean, it's like he did everything perfectly, and then he just didn't take the game over. I was just like, what? No, of course, it's easier. It's easy for us, right? It's easy for me and you to sit and go, what? The bar says it's minus 1.3. What the hell is he doing? You never know. I mean, it could come with risk. It could come with risk. You start attacking, you're going to get attacked too. Maybe you didn't want that. But I was just so disappointed. All right, fine, Anish, fine. You make the draw with black from a position of strength. You got the white pieces. You don't believe in Andreikin's Sicilian. Last time you played b3 and you got a completely winning position. Show me what you got. Open Sicilian. Takes, knight c6, and we have a Taimanov. So it's a perfect weapon for a guy like Anish, who is anticipating this and is going to come with some prep. Now, this is a very theoretical position. Knight f6 and queen f3. So Anish is playing a super aggressive system, right? He's reinforcing his center. He doesn't really want to take just yet or ever. Here's why. Because if you take on d5, black just has a really good center. Actually, white has no center pawns. And this is a perfect example of if you don't have any center pawns, you can't really do too much. Now, black doesn't want to take white because you ruin your position. Pawns are horrible. They're just they're targets, right? So it's going to be a battle around the center. So we're going to have rook e1, bishop e7 covering up. Now queen g3, looking to target this. Andreikin here, the absolute lunatic, looks over at what Rapport is doing. Actually, Rapport's not playing today because it's the tiebreak day. But saw the game yesterday. He can castle. He can play king f8 to defend. He plays h5. I don't know what the hell this is, folks. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. The move h5 doesn't even stop queen g7. Like, sometimes you play h5, you're like, aha, I trapped your queen, but the queen can just come back. I don't know what h5 does. I don't know what h5 does. Maybe he wants something like this and queen b6. I don't know. I can't tell you what h5 does. I literally do not know. But Anish seems to know. So he doesn't like this, so he plays h3. But what was the point of playing queen g3 if you're not going to take g7? I don't get it. I don't understand any of this. I don't know. This is another reason why chess makes me want to cry. h3, and now he defends. But if he was always going to defend this, why did he play h5? I don't understand anything. When you play like this, I make fun of you. When I play like this, you make fun of me. But when they play like this, it's like, oh my god, wow, such exquisite chess players. Now bishop f4, h4. So clearly the idea was not to target this, or it was to target this and force a concession out of black. Sometimes you make threats in chess which force a very uncomfortable move for your opponent, right? Like in boxing, you feint the punch, they duck, over the top, knockout. Same thing here, king moves to f8, okay, well now this bozo can't castle, ha, right? So I guess that was the idea. Queen goes back to f3, Andreikin's unbothered, he's like, all right, well I'm just gonna, it's a glitch in the matrix, I'm just gonna castle my king. Rook is drunk in the corner. Rook d1. Visually, white's position makes 35 times more sense than black's position. What is this? Why is this king here but the rook is not castled? What's this bishop doing? All right, this bishop is a glorified pawn. It's a tall pawn with a mouth, all right, and a pointy cap. I don't know what it's doing, okay? Knight h5 attacks the bishop, bishop back to h2, and now Andreikin trades his other bishop. So he trades his other bishop, which seemingly is good. Now, for the love of God, I don't understand anything that's going on. e5 looks like it's just a thorn in the black position. This knight has absolutely nowhere to go. All right, fine. Turns out that Anish Giri is a genius. He drew with black to win with white. Fantastic. Knight e2, beautiful move. Tactical defense of the b2 pawn because that bishop would die. g6, c3, queen e7, b4. I mean, Anish just has, by all intents and I mean, he just has a beautiful position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns out of 7 for black are on light squares. Why does that idiot even exist? Is that what we ask ourselves when we look in the mirror every day? Don't give up. The night is darkest just before the dawn. That's a Batman quote. Good quote, though. I like that quote. So bishop on b7. Now Andreikin plays a5. That's literally all he has. He has to go here. He has nowhere else he can play on this board. a5, a3, and now a nice idea, bishop a6. He is going to trade his bishop. Knight d4, bishop takes d3. Now, if you were to ask me in 2 seconds to choose here what to play, I would tell you rook takes d3. I don't know why. Probably like the fact that I can get my queen to g4 and rook f3 and create some attack. Like, you know, just in a perfect world. Queen g4, rook f3. Something. Some way to create an attack, right? Anish plays queen d3. Okay, we gotta trust him. I mean, queen d3, fine. Queen b7, rook b1. White still feels like has 4 pieces playing, whereas black has 2. I mean, it just feels like black is playing without 2 pieces, right? Queen a6, b5. That's it. Anish is in. He's in on the queen side. Rook is coming to b1. He's going to win this. He's going to play c4, crash through, get f7, get e6, get g6. Game is over. All right. Show us what you got. Queen back to c8. I mean, this is a complete misery. Rook b6. Okay, rook b6, fine. You can also play rook b7. You can also play knight f3, knight g5, knight g5. Okay, great. Rook b6, queen c5, queen f3. Guys, what is this? That's not okay. That is never supposed to be okay. All right? So, rook b8, queen takes a3. This man, Andreikin, in the middle of a game with keeping a straight face and a Tetris piece over there of chess pieces, is like, I'm just gonna take a pawn on a3. I don't care. Whatever. If you're gonna beat me, you're gonna beat me. I don't care. Rook takes f8. The winning move here apparently is knight b5, which attacks the queen. And for example, after queen c5 or queen a2 attacking the rook, you just play knight d6. I actually don't, I mean, they have low time. They both have probably a minute here, but knight b5, also you cannot take the rook because this is protected. So you take the queen and that's protected, right? Knight b5 and then knight d6. I mean, white's position just is incredibly strong. I don't know. I guess he didn't like something there. Rook f8, queen f8, knight c6. Okay, fine. Rook b8 is a threat. Rook b7, everything is good, right? We're threatening a mate. Uh-oh. Knight e7. Now, if you take this, queen f6, rook e7, queen f7, Andreikin just moves out of the way. Knight g6, look at this move. Knight g6, Anish gets desperate. If king takes g6, queen g4, and it's actually a draw, right? It's actually a draw. So Anish is like, all right, I offer a draw. Let's go to the next level of the tie breaks. And my man Andreikin says, move your rook. Rook takes f7. So if rook a7, then queen b6. If rook d7, then queen b5 or queen b1, right? Some queen b5. And then rook c7, there's queen b8. And there's ways to dance out of this. And I think the winning idea here is basically just dislodging this king to h2 and then going back with the queen and pressuring this pawn. I think that's the winning idea. There's a way here to like get the queen back with tempo. Anish like takes on g6 and then takes on f7 and takes on h8 and goes all in. The problem is, when everything is said and done, the white knight and white queen cannot mate the black king. And not only that, not only can they not mate the black king, as by the way, look at this, very instructive. Check into the check, not just taking the pawn. Very instructive. Check, forcing a king move, checking again. That's very high level. Black is up 2 pawns. Not only is black up 2 pawns, black finds a very nice way to sack the queen for the fork. And that's it, folks. 2 passed pawns. Knight holds the other 2. And out of nowhere, Dmitry Andreikin has saved the day, and not only saves the day, he wins this game. If he takes queen, you cannot push, right? That's why he didn't take, because the pawn would go. Anish Giri has been knocked out of the Serbia Grand Prix. 3 winning positions out of 4 games. Unable to convert, Dmitry Andreikin, nerves of steel. Cold-blooded defender is the finalist, and he will take on Ricard Rapport tomorrow, and Anish Giri's campaign comes to a close. I mean, when I saw this after that first draw, it actually inspired the thumbnail for this video. I actually kind of wanted to cry. Like, I want to see Anish win this thing. I don't know. One of the guys I cheer for. Even though when his Twitter account got hacked, it leaked my phone number. Still cheer for the guy. Don't cheer for the hacker. Cheer for Anish. So, yeah. I'll see you all for the final tomorrow. Congratulations to Dmitry Andreikin and Richard Rapport, but we are anything but done, as those two have to determine who is going to be the winner of the second Grand Prix in Belgrade, Serbia. Get out of here.